The leather reins slipped through my trembling fingers as his hands covered mine, guiding my grip with a firmness that sent heat racing up my arms. "Feel the rhythm," Reese murmured against my ear, his chest pressed against my back as we moved, with the horse beneath us. I could barely breathe, let alone focus on the lesson. His warmth surrounded me, his breath tickling my neck as his fingers tightened over mine. "That's it, Audrey. Let yourself move with him." But all I could think about was how his body felt behind me, how his voice dropped to that low, intimate tone that made my core ache with wanting. The stable was empty except for us, the evening light casting long shadows across the hay-covered floor. Perfect timing for what I'd been craving all week. Hey, if you're enjoying this steamy start, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in the stable. I'd been taking lessons for 3 months now, ever since my husband decided I needed a healthy hobby to fill my evenings while he worked late at the office. Again. What started as reluctant compliance had become the highlight of my week, though not for the reasons he'd intended. It wasn't the horses that drew me back to Willowbrook Stables every Tuesday and Thursday evening. It was Reese, tall, rugged, with sun-weathered hands that knew exactly how to handle both horses and women. He'd caught my attention from the first lesson. The way he moved with such natural confidence, his dark hair catching the stable lights, those piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through my polite suburban facade to the hungry woman underneath. I'd found myself choosing outfits with care, applying lip gloss before lessons, making excuses to linger after other students had gone home. Tonight felt different, charged. We'd moved beyond basic groundwork to actually riding, and Reese had suggested we try bareback, to really feel the connection, he'd said with that devastating half-smile. I should have known better, should have recognized the dangerous territory we were entering, but when he'd lifted me onto Storm's back and climbed up behind me, his strong arms encircling me as he took the reins, every rational thought fled my mind. "Relax," he whispered now, his lips so close to my ear I could feel their warmth. "You're too tense. The horse can sense it." His free hand settled on my hip, fingers splaying across the thin fabric of my riding pants. "Breathe with me." I tried to focus on his breathing, tried to match the steady rise and fall of his chest against my back, but his touch was setting me on fire. Each gentle movement of his hand, each brush of his fingers, sent electricity shooting through my nerve endings. When Storm shifted beneath us, it pressed me back more firmly against Reese's body, and I couldn't suppress the soft gasp that escaped my lips. "Good," he murmured, his voice rougher now. "Just like that. Feel how your body moves with his?" But I wasn't thinking about the horse anymore. All I could focus on was the solid warmth of the man behind me, the way his breathing had changed, becoming deeper, more deliberate. The way his hand had started to trace small circles on my hip, barely perceptible but driving me wild with desire. We rode in silence for several minutes, the only sounds the soft thud of hooves on packed earth, and our synchronized breathing. The sun was setting, casting the indoor arena in golden light that filtered through the high windows. Other riders had finished their lessons and gone home, leaving us alone in this intimate cocoon of warm air and fading daylight. "That's enough for tonight," Reese said finally, his voice strained. But instead of dismounting immediately, he sat still for a moment, his arms still around me, his body pressed against mine. I could feel the tension in him, the same electric awareness that was making my skin buzz with anticipation. When we finally slid down from Storm's back, Reese's hands lingered on my waist as he helped me to the ground. Our eyes met, and I saw my own desire reflected in his dark gaze. The air between us crackled with unspoken hunger. I should help you cool him down," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah," he agreed, but neither of us moved. We stood there, inches apart, the sexual tension so thick I could barely breathe. Then Storm shifted, bumping against us, and the spell broke. Reese stepped back, running a hand through his hair. "Right, let's get him settled for the night." Leading, Storm back to his stall became an exercise in torture. Every time Reese's fingers brushed mine as we removed the halter, every casual touch as we worked side by side sent fresh waves of desire coursing through me. I was acutely aware of everything about him. The way his shirt stretched across, his broad shoulders, the competent movements of his hands as he checked Storm's water and hay, the musky scent of leather and man that made me want to press my face against his neck. "Audrey." His voice stopped me as I was about to leave the stall. When I turned, he was standing close, too close, his eyes dark with want. "This is dangerous territory we're walking into." "I know," I whispered, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Your husband isn't here," I interrupted, stepping closer. "He's never here." Reese's jaw clenched. "That doesn't make this right." "Maybe not," I admitted, reaching up to trace the line of his jaw with trembling fingers. "But I've never wanted anything more in my life." For a moment, he just stared at me, his breathing harsh. Then, with a sound that was half groan, half surrender, he pulled me against him. His mouth crashed down on mine, hungry and desperate, and I melted into him with a moan of relief. His kiss was everything I'd imagined and more, hot, demanding, filled with weeks of pent-up desire. His hands tangled in my hair, holding me, captive as his tongue explored my mouth with thorough intensity. I pressed myself against him shamelessly, feeling the hard evidence of his arousal against my stomach, knowing he wanted this as much as I did. When we finally broke apart, both of us were breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine. His hands still cradled my face. "We shouldn't," he started. "Don't," I breathed, placing a finger against his lips. "Don't think. Not tonight." Something shifted in his expression, and I saw the moment his control snapped. With swift, sure movements, he backed me against the wall of the stall, his body caging me in. This time when he kissed me, it was with a possessive hunger that made my knees weak. His hands roamed my body with confident expertise, mapping every curve through my clothes. When his fingers found the buttons of my shirt, I didn't protest. I wanted this, wanted him, more than I'd wanted anything in years. Each button that came undone felt like a small liberation, a step further away from the dutiful wife I'd been pretending to be. When my shirt finally fell away, Reese pulled back to look at me, his eyes burning with appreciation. "You're beautiful," he murmured, his hands skimming over my skin with reverent touches that made me shiver. "Touch me," I whispered, arching into his hands. "Please." He didn't need to be asked twice. His mouth followed the path his hands had traced, pressing hot, kisses along my collarbone down to the swell of my chest. When his lips closed over my sensitive skin, I gasped, my hands fisting in his hair to hold him close. Every touch was electric, sending jolts of pleasure through my starved body. It had been so long since anyone had touched me like this, with passion and hunger instead of dutiful routine. Reese's hands and mouth worshipped my body with a thoroughness that left me gasping and aching for more. "I've been thinking about this," he confessed against my skin, his voice rough with desire. "Every lesson, watching you, wanting you, you drive me crazy, Audrey." His words sent a fresh wave of heat through me. To know that he'd been thinking about me, wanting me, made this feel even more forbidden and thrilling. "Show me," I breathed. "Show me how much you want me." With gentle but insistent hands, he turned me to face the wall, his body pressing against my back just like it had on the horse. But this time, there was no pretense of a riding lesson. This time, his hands moved with clear intent, skimming down my sides to find the waistband of my riding pants. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against my neck, his fingers hesitating at the fastening. "Tell me this is wrong and I'll stop." But I couldn't. Instead, I pressed back against him, silently giving him permission to continue. His sharp intake of breath told me he understood. The sound of fabric sliding down my legs seemed impossibly loud in the quiet stable. Cool air kissed my exposed skin, but Reese's warm hands quickly followed, tracing patterns that made me gasp and arch against him. "So responsive," he murmured appreciatively, his touch becoming more focused, more intimate. "I love how you react to me." I was beyond coherent response, lost in the sensations he was creating. When his fingers found that sensitive place that made me cry out, I had to bite my lip to keep from being too loud. The horses in nearby stalls shifted restlessly, sensing the tension in the air. "That's it," he encouraged, his voice dark with satisfaction. "Let me hear you. Let me know how good this feels." His touch was skilled, patient, building the tension inside me with maddening precision. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, he would pull back, kissing my neck, whispering praise against my skin, then begin again with renewed intensity. "Reese, please," I finally gasped, my body trembling with need. I know what you need," he assured me, his own breathing, ragged, "trust me." The next thing I knew, he was kneeling behind me, his hands gripping my hips as his mouth replaced his fingers. The first touch of his tongue made me cry out, my hands scrabbling for purchase against the wooden wall. He explored me with the same thorough attention he'd shown my upper body, learning what made me gasp, what made me tremble, what made me forget my own name. "You taste so sweet," he murmured between intimate kisses. I could do this for hours. The thought made me shiver with anticipation and need. My core was practically begging for his attention, and he seemed determined to give it everything it craved. His rhythm was perfect, alternating between gentle teases and more insistent pressure, keeping me balanced on the edge of release. When the first wave hit, I couldn't contain my moan of pleasure. My body shook with the intensity of it, my legs barely able to support me, but Reese didn't stop. If anything, his ministrations became more focused, drawing out my peak until I was sobbing with the pleasure of it. "Beautiful," he breathed against my sensitized skin. Absolutely beautiful. As the tremors subsided, he stood slowly, his hands still gentle on my waist. I turned in his arms, my legs unsteady, and saw the desire burning in his eyes. He'd given me incredible pleasure, but he was still fully clothed, still in control, still wanting. Your turn, I whispered, reaching for the buttons of his shirt with fingers that shook slightly from the aftershocks of my release. He caught my hands, bringing them to his lips to press gentle kisses to my fingertips. Are you sure? Once we cross this line? I crossed it the moment I let you touch me, I said honestly. I want all of you, Reese. I want this. Something in my voice must have convinced him because he released my hands and let me continue with his shirt. Each button revealed more of his chest, dusted with dark hair, marked with small scars that spoke of years working with horses. He was magnificently built, all lean muscle and masculine grace. When his shirt finally joined mine on the hay-covered floor, I ran my hands over his chest, marveling at the feel of warm skin over solid muscle. He watched me explore him, his breathing growing more labored with each touch. You're killing me, he groaned when my fingers traced the line of hair that disappeared into his jeans. Good, I murmured, pressing a kiss to his chest. I want you as crazy as you make me. My hands moved to his belt, and this time he didn't stop me. Soon he was as exposed as I was, and I could see the full evidence of his desire for me. He was impressive, and the thought of having him inside me made fresh heat pool in my core. Come here, he said roughly, pulling me close. The feeling of skin against skin was electric, making us both gasp. When he lifted me easily, I wrapped my legs around his waist, trusting him to support me. I've never done anything like this, I admitted as he positioned me against the wall. Neither have I, he confessed. Not here, not with someone like you. Someone. Like me? Someone married, he said, his eyes searching mine. Someone I could fall for. The words hit me like a physical blow, sweet and painful at the same time. This wasn't just about physical attraction for him either. The realization should have scared me, should have made me stop and think about what we were doing. Instead, it only made me want him more. Don't fall for me, I whispered against his lips. I don't know if I can catch you. Too late, he murmured, and then he was kissing me again, deep and consuming, as his body joined with mine in a slow, perfect slide that made us both groan with satisfaction. The feeling of completeness was overwhelming. He filled me so perfectly, stretched me in the most delicious way, that for a moment we both just held still, marveling at the connection. God, Audrey, he breathed against my neck. You feel incredible. I couldn't speak, could only hold on to him as he began to move with slow, deep strokes that hit every sensitive spot inside me. The position against the wall gave him perfect leverage, and he used it to drive me higher and higher with each thrust. Is this what you wanted? He asked, his voice strained with the effort of maintaining control. Is this what you've been thinking about? Yes, I gasped, my nails digging into his shoulders. Just like this, exactly like this. He picked up the pace, his movements becoming more urgent, more demanding. I met him stroke for stroke, lost in the rhythm we created together. The stable faded away until there was nothing but the two of us, moving together in perfect synchronization. When my second peak approached, it built differently than the first, deeper, more intense, threatening to tear me apart with its power. Reese seemed to sense it, adjusting his angle to hit that perfect spot with every thrust. Come for me, he commanded, his voice rough with his own approaching release. I want to feel you lose control. His words pushed me over the edge. I cried out, my body clenching around him as wave after wave of pleasure crashed through me. The intensity of it was almost too much to bear, leaving me shaking and breathless in his arms. Feeling my release triggered his own. With a deep groan, he buried his face in my neck as his body shuddered with the force of his climax. We held each other tightly, both of us trembling with the aftermath of what we'd shared. For long minutes, we stayed like that, bodies still joined, hearts hammering against each other. Finally, Reese lifted his head to look at me, his eyes soft with something that looked dangerously like tenderness. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I was more than okay. I was transformed, awakened, completely alive in a way I hadn't been in years. But I was also terrified of what this meant, of what happened next. Gently, he helped me down, both of us wincing slightly at the separation. We dressed in silence, stealing glances at each other, the weight of what we'd done settling over us. Audrey, he began when we were both clothed again. Don't, I said quickly, gathering my scattered emotions. Don't say anything you'll regret. I won't regret this, he said firmly. Will you? I looked at him, really looked at him, taking in his tousled hair, his kiss-swollen lips, the satisfied warmth in his eyes. He was beautiful and kind and had just given me the most incredible experience of my life. No, I said honestly. I won't regret it. He smiled then, that devastating half-smile that had started all this. Good, because I'd like to see you again. Outside of lessons. My heart clenched. Reese. Think about it, he said, stepping close enough to press a gentle kiss to my forehead. That's all I ask. I drove home in a daze, my body still humming with satisfaction, my mind racing with the implications of what I'd done, what we'd done. The familiar streets of my neighborhood looked different somehow, as if I was seeing them through new eyes. At you. Home, I stood in my empty driveway for a moment, staring at the dark windows of my house. My husband was working late again, as usual. He probably wouldn't be home until after midnight, and when he did arrive, he'd go straight to his study to finish up some project or another. Inside, I headed straight for the shower, needing to wash away the evidence of my betrayal. But as the hot water cascaded over my skin, I found myself remembering every touch, every kiss, every whispered word. My body responded to the memories, and I had to brace myself against the shower wall as another wave of desire washed over me. This was dangerous. What I'd done with Reese wasn't just a moment of weakness, it was the beginning of something that could destroy my marriage, my carefully constructed life. But as I stood there with water streaming down my face, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive. I was toweling off when I heard my husband's car in the driveway. My heart jumped into my throat as I quickly finished drying off and slipped into my nightgown. By the time he came upstairs, I was in bed with a book, the picture of domestic tranquility. How was your riding lesson? He asked absently as he loosened his tie. Fine, I managed, hoping my voice sounded normal. The usual. He nodded, already distracted by something on his phone. Good, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I have a conference call with Tokyo in an hour, so I'll be in the study. And just like that, he disappeared into his routine, completely oblivious to the fact that his wife had just experienced the most passionate encounter of her life. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, Reese's words echoing in my mind. Think about it. How could I think about anything else? The next few days passed in a blur of normalcy that felt surreal after what had happened in the stable. I went through the motions of my regular life, grocery shopping, meeting friends for lunch, attending a charity committee meeting, but my mind was constantly elsewhere, replaying every moment with Reese. My body carried the memory of his touch, responding with unexpected heat at the most inappropriate moments. During a particularly boring committee meeting about fundraising strategies, I found myself remembering the feel of his hands on my skin and had to excuse myself to splash. Cold water on my face in the bathroom. I was a mess, and I knew it. But I couldn't stop thinking about Thursday, about my next lesson, about seeing him again. When Thursday finally arrived, I spent an embarrassing amount of time getting ready. I told myself it was just normal preparation for a riding lesson, but the lacy underwear I chose and the extra attention I paid to my hair and makeup told a different story. My hands were shaking as I drove to the stable. What if he regretted what had happened? What if he was cold and professional, pretending it had never occurred? What if someone had found out? But when I walked into the stable and saw him waiting, by Storm's stall, all my fears evaporated. The smile he gave me was warm and intimate, full of shared secrets and promises. Ready for your lesson? He asked, but his eyes were saying something entirely different. Always, I replied, my voice huskier than intended. This lesson was different from our usual routine. We stuck to groundwork, but every touch lingered, every instruction was given with his hands guiding mine, his body close enough that I could feel his warmth. The tension built steadily throughout the hour, until by the end I was practically vibrating with need. When the other riders had gone and we were alone, he backed me against Storm's stall, his hands bracing on either side of my head. I haven't stopped thinking about Tuesday, he said, his voice low and rough. Neither have I admitted. I want to see you away from here, somewhere we can take our time, somewhere we don't have to worry about being interrupted. My pulse jumped. That's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, he agreed, but I can't stop wanting you. I closed my eyes, torn between desire and guilt. What we'd done in the stable could almost be dismissed as a moment of madness, a single lapse in judgment. But what he was suggesting, meeting somewhere else, planning it out, that would make it a full-blown affair. My husband is going out of town next weekend, I heard myself say. Business trip to Denver. Reese's eyes darkened. Audrey, the Riverside Inn, I continued, my heart pounding. Saturday night, he stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Room 204, I'll be there at 8. The kiss he gave me then was soft and sweet, full of anticipation and promise. As I drove home, I knew I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. But for the first time in years, I was looking forward to something with every fiber of my being. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. So tell me, have you ever felt that irresistible pull towards someone who could change everything? That moment when you know you're about to step off a cliff but you can't stop yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one and I'm dying to know what you think. And before you go, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens at the Riverside Inn. Things are about to get even more intense. Thanks for riding along with this story. See you in the next one.